there! On the Writer Talks today, we have our bi-weekly book reading. And for that, I have chosen two distinct writers from two distinct time periods, two distinct cultures, and two distinct genres as well. The first one is my all-time favorite writer, the bard from Stratford, who has said it all. I read from his immensely popular sonnet 116 that celebrates true love in the face of all tempests and bears it out to the tomb. I think this is more relevant today, more significant today than ever before, where sadly love seems to be so fragile, so seasonal. Here is Sonnet 116 that celebrates true love so that we can continue to get inspired and learn. Sonnet 116, William Shakespeare. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it's an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. Hope you liked it. As you can see, I'm already in my Christmas spirit, wearing red and white, the Christmas colors, ushering in December. For our second reading, I have chosen a writer all the way from down under, Australia. Well, this riveting 21st century epic drama, Fields of Grace, authored by the award-winning writer Wendy Waters, she is a multifaceted genius. Not only is she an author, she's also a composer, a lyricist, and a librettist. Born in Australia, she grew up in Sydney, lived in the USA for 6 years, and now divides her time between London, Sydney, and Paris. In 2011, Waters volunteered to work with Oasis Salvation Army Crisis Center in Sydney, helping musically gifted young people. Waters has also written 3 musicals, Fred, Alexander, and The Last Tale. Her debut novel, Catch the Moon Mary, was published in UK in 2015, and it has been also turned into a play which was co-written with Jemina Macedo. This book, Catch the Moon Mary, has also been optioned to be made into a film by the Scottish producer Diane Aspinall. This play, Catch the Moon Mary, along with her musical Fred, has had stage readings at Tristan Bates Theatre in 2017. So, music is a constant theme in all of Wendy Waters' works, and it still plays a major role in her latest novel, Fields of Grace, that was published in 2019 to a rapturous reception. This epic drama, as I already said, is set in the 1930s, and it chronicles the life of the protagonist, Grace Fielding, and her journey from Devon to London and then to Paris. In fact, Wendy, another of my friends from the writing community on Twitter, has shared some very interesting snippets. Can you guess the inspiration behind the novel? It is her grandmother, whom she refers to as her kindred spirit, Dagmar Thompson. And little wonder then that her favorite character in the novel is also a protagonist, Grace. Wendy says, and I quote, Fields, based on my grandmother, Dagmar Thompson, is a brilliant violinist and composer in Belgium in the 1920s, and she later moved to London in the 1930s. In London, her star was rising until the burgeoning war in Europe forced her to return to Australia, where she married the man who had loved her ever since she was 15. Whilst the marriage was a happy one and they lived happily, her career was ruined. She never fulfilled her extraordinary promise. Wendy goes on to say, because of my own background in theatre, I made my protagonist an actress rather than a musician. My favorite character is the lovely and spirited Grace, who epitomizes the charm and courage of my grandmother, Dagmar Thompson, and represents the loss of opportunity fated to so many women the world over. Captivated? Transported? I surely am. This is exactly the reason why I chose Fields of Grace for our next reading. And to read this, we have none other than Bryan Quinn, our Canadian novelist, who was also my guest on the Writer Talks last week, author of the sensational thriller The Package, and awaiting his forthcoming novel, No Good Deed Goes Unpunished. Bryan also happens to be a very dear friend of Wendy's, and he has very generously offered to do the book reading for us. Now, the extract that he has chosen also happens to be my favorite one. It's from the prologue section from Fields of Grace. So, without further ado, we'll listen to Bryan render this in his own wonderful voice. I must thank Bryan immensely for his generosity.
Mid-morning, the sun drove the siren mist back into the river, and 3 bewitched farmers followed it. They were found a week later 1/2 mile downstream, tangled in willow hair, riding the currents like reeds. The storyteller, a pagan like my grandmother, warned her to cast a protection spell if she ever encountered the evil light, for it was surely a harbinger of death. In 1884, my grandmother, a grown woman and newly married, had cause to recall the warning, for one morning she saw a glimmering tangerine fog crouched over the land, brooding like a lost argument. She cast a protection spell over herself and her husband, but neglected to safeguard her brother far away in South Africa, where he was raping the Boer republics of its reluctant gold. A Zulu spear pierced his heart that day. My grandmother did not see Amberglow again until the night of my birth, 14th April, 1912, when the sky burned molten copper. Terrified the deathlight would steal my mother or me, she cast a protection spell over us. We survived, but 1,517 people did not. Terrible news rocked Stoke Gabriel the next day. At 11:40 p.m., the exact moment of my birth, the RMS Titanic hit an iceberg in the North Atlantic Ocean and sank. My grandmother never saw Amberglow again, but I did, in Berlin, in 1936. John and I woke to see Askanischen Plaza drowning in a strange orange-colored fog. I cast a spell, calling on the sea to protect us, but the fairy folk were powerless against an even stronger glamour, the spell that Hitler had cast over Germany. Many people were lost in that dreadful light, John amongst them. Now, on the 23rd September 2009, the new day has an old light. Amberglow, I will die today. The tangerine fog that muffles the city and phantoms the neighborhood is Amberglow, and it will want a sacrifice. I hope it will be content with an old lady who's happy to follow it, but just in case it has an appetite for longer flesh, I have cast a protection spell over Sam and Christian and their partners. Having offered myself, I have until sunset to sort out my unfinished business, for when the deathlight leaves today, I will follow it. Unless. In the corner of my room is a trunk locked for 74 years. It holds my past glory, an unfulfilled legacy, and John. I'll explain. When I locked the trunk in 1937, my mother, a pagan as potently gifted in the old ways as my grandmother, prophesied that John would come back for me the day I unlocked it. I've been tempted to turn the key many times, but my mother bound me with a promise to leave nothing unfinished in this world. There are 2 things I must attend to. My son Christian needs to know the truth about his father, and my granddaughter Sam needs success. Time has a way of sorting out most things, but I have no more time. So today I will unlock the trunk and pass John's legacy on to Sam and tell my son the truth about his father. Then the Amberglow may claim my soul. Unless John claims it first.
I hope you were equally captivated by that wonderful reading from Bryan Quinn, just as I was. It also happened to be one of my favorite sections from Fields of Grace. I have been reading this novel now, and I'm 100 pages into it, and I found it absolutely unputdownable. So please do write in and share your thoughts, feelings, and suggestions in the comment section. And as always, please do like, share, and subscribe. I would urge each one of my subscribers, each one get one so that we can continue to have such engaging conversations. In fact, Fields of Grace has 5-star rating on both Amazon as well as on Goodreads. And if you're captivated, please go ahead and buy the book. Now, before we sign off for this week, let me tell you that my guest next Sunday would be another fascinating writer all the way from UK, Paul Jameson. Besides talking about his recent book, Nightjar, we will be discussing a range of other things, obviously. Right? So until next Sunday, ahoy on the Writer Talks from me. Take care.